Hey everybody, it is Thursday at 11:02 and I am here today to go live with Matt. You've seen a couple of hopefully caught our past IGTVs. They live in my IGTV grid if you want to check them out. And today we are talking about meditation. Hold on a sec. Okay, so meditation, as you know, if you've been following me, is something that's really important to me, and I've been doing it daily since March, and it has really come into great use for me. So I'm in right now, and he, has taught me a lot about meditation, taught me about not just the importance of meditation. Hey, Matt. Not just about the importance of meditation, but he's also taught me, like some tips on how to meditate and how simple it is, and kind of demystified meditation for me. And so I thought it would be a great idea to talk to him about meditation today.
Great topic. I love it.
Yeah. So, my meditation practice is, first of all, I feel like everybody's meditation practice is unique, and so it should be. I meditate first thing in the morning, and usually lately once throughout the day while my kids are at school. And because if I do it at night, I just fall asleep. I'm a really quick, it takes nothing for me to fall asleep. My head hits the pillow, and that's all I remember for the day. So bedtime is not a good time for me. That's why I do it first thing in the morning, because I'm also a morning person, and it's very easy for me to wake up and not fall back to sleep. So you really just have to find the best point in the day. But Matt, what can you tell us about, meditation, and help us to demystify it?
I think there are many forms of meditation, and this is informal and formal. Informal would be, for example, for me growing up, informal meditation was going for a walk in the woods and playing music. That was it. And spending time with animals, to me, that brought me completely present. It was such a wonderful time. It just filled me up. And music was the same. Now, not until later in life did I discover how to be involved in formal meditation, and then the positive impact on my life for that in 2013. So fairly recently, well, I mean, depending on who you're talking to, 7 years ago is recent. I was encouraged by my teacher to do 36-minute guided meditation every day for 2 years, and I did. And I said, well, if he said that, then that's what I'm going to do, because he knows better than I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that, and I continued the other. Now, for a while there, I wasn't playing music. So, because drums are loud, and we couldn't really have that in our home. And so I really got away from that. So I maintained walks, and some exercises can be meditative for me a little bit. But it's more about, for me, anything that was bringing me right here, right now in the present moment, without getting distracted by anything else. So what ends up happening, I think, with people when they start some form of meditative practice is their ability to hold their attention might be 2 or 3 seconds. And so after 2 or 3 seconds, or even a minute after them having to consciously restart their focused brain, think it's just too hard, and they give up. And I understand, because it is. It's because it's very different. We're used to being, so I'm in my car, cars are driving by, there's, birds flying around. I can let all this happen and throw me off of where I am, or get used to those things happening without throwing me off. And that's basically what the value of meditation has been for my life. Not have to get thrown off based on what's going around, because I know where my center is relatively, most times.
Okay. And so what does your meditation practice look like right now?
Well, it changes a little bit. So I'll do guided meditations periodically. I will do somewhere where, the reason I'm looking out past above is I look at the horizon, and I love doing that. Looking at the sky, looking at the stars, the moon, the sunrise, the moonrise, all of that, because it brings my focus out, and I get to explore much more than what's directly in front of me in here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the ways that I do. Or it'll be a real formal, I will sit down, close my eyes, and either go through a mantra of sorts, or I will go on what would be considered a journey. Now, a journey in a meditation is different. And in terms of, so what I refer to journeys, I was taught how to go through journeys in the traditional Algonquin shaman way. And so that's what I mean when I say journey. There are a lot of different ways to journey, a lot of different schools of thought on it, but that's what I will use. And that might be, 5 minutes as a meditation. It could be 30 seconds. If I find myself a little bit distracted or spinning or not quite sure where to start, I mean, I have only recently in the past number of years gotten better with organization. And so before that, I look at my to-do list, which was, 7 miles long, and then all the other things that had happened, and then all the stuff that came into it as the day progressed, it was just too much. So what I found was just take a moment to say, what's in front of me right now, and then close my eyes. What's in front of me right now? And right now, what's in front of me is you, right? And holding the phone in the car. That's so if I find that something gets thrown, or I get thrown by something, then that's what I'll do right here is say, what's in front of me right now? And you can let my body soften. So there's ways to meditation that includes thoughts, and the ways of meditation that includes feelings and emotions. And they're different. People that study meditation their entire lives, there are lineages of people who study meditation only. And there are different protocols to follow based on where you are in the world and the lineage and so on. But many people have heard about the monkey mind. And it just loves to chatter and run around and be a little bit of a trickster. And what I found with guided meditations specifically is it gave my mind something to focus on when I didn't know where to place my focus.
When that monkey mind was really active.
Yes.
I agree that a guided meditation, there are some mornings when I'm like, I need just music. Like I use the Insight Timer free app. And so there's tons of variety and stuff like that. So if I need music, I can find just beautiful Tibetan singing bowls or sounds of some sort. Or if I need a guided meditation, which is most of the time, I love a guided meditation because of that. It really allows me to stay focused and in the present moment and in my body. I find a guided meditation really keeps me in my body, which is really important.
Yeah, and that's a great point. One of the particular ceremonies that I found to be very useful is to bring all of our scattered thoughts, emotions, and energy back into ourselves. And because when we do that, it's like you have 5 fingers. Imagine all 5 of them doing something completely different all the time. And then you have your toes in your other hand. So what our mind can do is it can run into the anticipation of avoiding a threat or resolving a past or all these other things that the mind does. And when I talk about mind, it's very different than some other cultures when they refer to mind. They refer to as the entire consciousness of the person. When I'm talking about mind, I'm talking about our acquired mind, which is kind of our ego, our personality, what presents itself here that's trying to check things out. I saw a video of someone talking about ego, and a lot of the conversation around ego and meditation they really go hand in hand well. However, when I talk about ego, I'm not talking about that it's bad. I hear often, you need to drop your ego, you need to let ego go. And ego is a construct. It's a structure that we can experience perception through. It's not a bad thing. The challenge, I think, is what people are talking about. My impression is that they're talking about attachment and greed and need and unhealthy desire. I think that's my impression when people talk about ego. That's kind of what they're
talking about. It's got a big
about.
ego. It's a negative thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's not a Freud thing.
Right. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So in terms of meditation and the practice, it can be, resolving what's scattered, as you said, and just bring it back into here. And what we can do is like I'm just patting my body. We can just pat our body down. And it's called a pat down. So you just pat your body down and just bring, as if you were to imagine that the little particles of you that were scattered around your body, and just grab them and pull them into your body.
One thing that I've been reading about recently is the connection between illness and disease in the body and spending too much time in the mind. So
Mm.
people who spend too much time in their mind become disconnected from their body, and their body tries to get their attention, by revealing these aches and pains and disease and that sort of thing. And so the practice of coming back into your body is also really good for disease prevention and, chronic illness and things like that, because you really are listening to your body. If you're up in your mind all the time, you're in your stories, running your programs, running your stories. When you drop into the body, you're paying more attention and it becomes more important.
Much more. You're absolutely right. It's like someone when they forget that they're breathing or they haven't taken a breath in 20, 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes it will be when I'm with someone in either just a regular conversation or in a formal, like in my work, it'll be like, okay, when was the last time you took a deep breath? Like, oh, I don't know.
I know.
Yeah.
So how can you, so someone, like for someone, you and I, like we are both fairly present. We are aware, I feel like we're in our bodies. We still obviously we're human. So we're having these thoughts and we find ourselves slipping into our mind too much. But, is taking a few deep breaths enough to be considered meditation? How does
It's,
someone start?
you start by changing your breath. That's how you start. Because we look at, and you can go on the internet and find there's fascinating research, whether you want to go deep into it or just superficially, there's going to be value regardless. So you have brain waves in the body. You have alpha, theta, etc. And so just changing your breath rate
Mm-hmm.
changes the rate at which your brain functions and perceives. So a nervous system and a brain system, while the brain is part of the nervous system, but I'm separating them just for a moment, is to let them recalibrate and soften their tone. And that's just automatically a shift in how you perceive. And that in of itself is meditative. I mean, you think of going for a walk, if you're relaxing, if you like going for a walk in the woods or with your family or whatever it is, and you just feel your body relax, notice how you're breathing. You're going to be breathing automatically deeper, more fully into your body, just not up here in your neck and your upper chest. Your whole body starts breathing well.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's all you did as part of a meditative practice of sorts, that's valuable.
So sometimes meditation teachers will say, breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Or this morning I did one where he said, breathe in through your nose and out through your nose. Like, does it really matter? Or what, do you know much there?
I know a little bit there. I'd say um, do what helps you get present. And if following something like that, you experience a shift, then you get to experience that shift. I notice there is a slight difference. And depending on what you're looking for, I mean, I know some East Indian practices have the energy going in. So the energy of the breath going into certain parts of the body first
Right.
changes the response of the way they track it. I would say at this stage, if you're just starting something, just start something.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry. Some people get, oh, I didn't breathe in for long enough. I was supposed to breathe in for 7 seconds and I breathed in for 6.5. Oh, I've just ruined it. Absolutely not. Just start something, because even just doing that changes a great deal of how you're feeling and how you're perceiving.
Yeah. Yeah, Sahala is here. Hi, Sahala. And she's saying, yes, she's agreeing with that. That is one thing, I was chatting with a friend yesterday and I'm like, are you meditating yet? And I really feel, I intentionally use the word yet because I really think we're all here. We want to feel better, right? So this is something, a meditation practice is something that will help you feel better.
Yeah.
So that's why I include the yet, because I'm like, it's coming. So, and when they say yes or no, it's on my list. Most people now, it's kind of on their list of things that they know they should be doing. But it's just getting started. And when I was in those shoes, 4 years ago, not very long before I started working with you, I was so intimidated. I thought it had to be 30 minutes or nothing. I thought it had to be an hour. And really it doesn't. You're saying that it can be 30 seconds in your car, a couple of deep breaths, an exercise.
Yeah. And even if your eyes are open, like it could be if you take the bus to work or whatever it is, however it is you travel, assuming it's safe to do so. Obviously, I have to put that
Yes.
disclaimer out there. You don't have to close your eyes. You just relax your body for a moment and just hear what it feels like to be
Mm-hmm.
silent.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Like even if we did that, so let's just do, I don't know, I'm looking at my clock. So it's 11:17 on my clock here. We just take a minute, if that even, and just breathe. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you can have your eyes open. So even now, I realize my shoulders were coming up a little bit.
Mine too.
Yeah.
When you
And that,
were talking about breathing, uh, let's just take a deep breath. First of all, together, whoever wants to, just take a deep breath. It's beautiful. It's magical, right? Like to get, yeah.
I remember I went to a music camp when I was a teenager, and the instructor, one of the instructors who owned the camp, he said we were talking about drums and music and percussion specifically. He said it's not what you play; it's the space between what you play. And so with meditation, I found it's not the moments; it's the gap between the moments. So that breath is just a gap. Now, in of itself, that's a moment. Technically, I understand. Okay, splitting hairs, but for the purposes of this conversation, it is between one moment and another.
Mm-hmm.
And we can just be present in that moment just for a moment, literally just for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
David G, who I meditate with on Insight Timer, he's like connected to Deepak Chopra. I love his meditations. He always says, "See you in the gap."
Yeah.
Like that's his closing thing. See you in the gap, and I'm like, "See you in the gap." I love it. I'm there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The
I
thing
think
about the gap, I have to say, and the thing about the space between is the story we make up about ourselves in that space. Because we no longer are attached to either moment. We're in limbo for a second. And that can be disconcerting and uncertain and unfamiliar feeling for people. So I think the more familiar people are with that experience, the
mm-hmm.
longer they can have that experience for and the more frequently. If it's brand new, the mind, if your brain creates all these stories about what's happening in the gap or in that moment or in the present of breath, if you have thoughts that you haven't wanted to think about,
Mm-hmm.
that you're intentionally putting down or further
Right.
away because they're challenging or painful, and I understand that. I'm not saying everything has to come up all at once. That can be sometimes a bit of a disaster. So let things trickle in and just say, just right now, breathe in, full body, and out. And
And
then move on. Even if your life is chaotic, move on to the chaos if you want, but at least
yeah,
you've given yourself a bit of a moment.
yeah, a bit of a reprieve.
Mhm.
So why is, when I think back to before I really meditated daily, I it was I don't have time for this. And that is, I think, a lot of women, especially busy men, even, I'm not going to just make it a gender specific thing. I think it's busy people where like, we don't have time. I don't have time to stop for 10 minutes, like, so, but now that I do it, there is no loss of time. There's only gain.
Yeah.
And I don't quite know how to explain that. Perhaps you do.
Yes. The analogy I use that makes sense to me is again from physical activity or sport. And so that goes into so I'm just looking down the street, and if I didn't have any shoes on and I wanted to run down the street as quickly as I could with stocking feet, it would take me a period of time. Probably slower, it would take me longer than if I had shoes on because I'd be navigating stones and rocks and twigs and all that kind of stuff. So if I took, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 seconds to put on my shoes and then run, I would get there faster even though I stopped. I waited to move to make sure I was prepared so I could go faster.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so when you're doing what you're doing in the day, taking a moment here means you can go faster and farther when you're doing it because you're
That's
not
a
having to deal
great
with all the other stuff.
analogy. I love that.
Yeah.
It's preparation for the things. So then other things that you do, especially what you do next, you're more prepared for, so you're more efficient at it, right?
Yes. Yep. And it's the same thing with eating, really. If you're trying to get something done and you're so hungry because you haven't eaten and you're distracted by your hunger, you're not really able to be present and do your job well. Whatever your task is, I don't mean your profession, whatever your task is, right?
Yeah.
If you take a moment and have something to eat and then do that task, you're not going to be distracted because you feel satiated.
Hmm.
Mm,
Okay,
that,
so you're saying that, for some of us, even just starting with like looking out the window and looking at your favorite view, maybe, and taking a couple of breaths, and you've started your meditation practice.
truly, it's really that simple.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it is. And if you don't have a view outside, or you can't, or you don't want to look out the window for whatever, you don't like the view, um, pull up a picture online, put it on your phone or your computer, or print something off, or buy a picture. Go to the dollar store or some whatever store you want, buy a nice little scene of a picture, and place it in front of you and stare at it.
Awesome. That's it. And then just go from there.
Go
And what
from
about,
there.
so like for me, the way I am with like new habits is I get kind of locked into thinking, okay, I have to do this every day now. So is that something with meditation? Obviously you and I and some of the people on here know that doing it every day is really important and beneficial. But if you're just getting started, like, should you do a 36-day kind of challenge or to get it into a habit, or can you just do it whenever you think of it at first?
It depends how disciplined you are. I mean, it took me, my teacher telling me, suggesting to do it every day for 2 years.
Oh,
That's what it
2 years.
took
Yeah.
for me to do it every day.
Whoa. Yeah.
So, I mean, I probably wouldn't have done it
Mm-hmm.
had I not trusted and respected his suggestion. And so, I mean, it was just that needed to be externally, I need to be externally influenced for that to happen. If you don't have someone like that in your life, or that doesn't work for you, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Do it whenever you think about it. Put a reminder on your phone, have it on your calendar. Say, remember to breathe. Like even on your calendar, remember to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's enough of a trigger to get things going. Now that brings a point I want to talk about triggers is the more you witness the trigger, so let's say it's something written on a piece of paper, and the more you ignore it, it's no longer a trigger.
What do you mean?
So
Yeah.
let's say I had remember to breathe as a piece of paper beside my computer,
Yeah.
and it's meant to remind me to breathe,
Mm-hmm.
and I see it whenever I sit at my computer, and I completely ignore it.
Right. Yeah. Then it's pointless.
You've lost the value.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you have it somewhere else, maybe, and you might walk by it and see it, but even still, how many photos do we have in our homes
Mm-hmm.
of family or quotes, and we forget it's there, and we walk right by it, and then every once in a while, oh yeah, I forgot about that, and
Mm-hmm.
every time you see it. So how you want to play those is up to you, but it can get to the point where it's now a negative or neutral return, and there's no point in that.
Mm-hmm. So what about if you are if you're someone who's starting out with meditation and some thoughts come up that you do try to intentionally avoid, what do you do? Like maybe it's like a story, like just something that happened in your past that is traumatic. Let's say as an example that you really that is why you're resisting meditation because you don't want to quiet your mind.
Yeah, the first thing I would say, I would personally say, because I value this and I've received value this, is work with someone specifically around that. That's really useful. Sometimes, I mean, yes, it's true. We have all the answers inside of us, and we are designed to heal and resolve trauma. Absolutely, 100%. Sometimes it takes someone else to help us navigate that. So that's the first thing I'd say. If you have something that's strong inside of you that you're avoiding because it's traumatic or it's creating a problem inside, seek someone out for that. In whatever type of person that might be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Other than that, it'd be okay. I'm having this thought, but right now I'm still just breathing. the thought is coming and I can let it go because right now I'm still right here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we don't need to pull into it. We don't need to grab onto it. Um, we don't need to relive the story around what the thought is. Just let it happen and then let it move on. And if you want to imagine a river and like a little boat, the thought is the boat on the river and it just flies by and you still look ahead and you look at the water and you don't have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Now, just so people know, if anyone has questions, feel free to pop them below, and Matt and I will come back and answer them. But also, Matt, is someone that over the last 5 years I've worked with, with those thoughts and past experiences that may come up and are uncomfortable, and you don't want to face them anymore, or you want to process them so that they can literally, figuratively, physically, whatever, float away in a boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And become less triggering. So you're someone that I would recommend in that situation.
Thank you. Yeah. One of the things that I've realized in doing this in my own life and processing my own life and having helped people help me do that, I have not done this by myself by any means,
Mm-hmm.
is oftentimes I have found that the story of what is being pushed down or away is bigger than the reality of what's there.
Totally. I would agree with you 100%. The story that you are telling yourself is way worse than what it actually is.
Yeah. There are some situations, if I think back, where the story was minimized and probably shouldn't have been. But I would say overall, when we're deeply, deeply afraid of what's there, we're also pushing away the medicine, the value, the gift, the treasure of what's there
Mm-hmm.
that's wrapped in the crazy.
Great.
Because it is. They're all together. But you can't access the beauty unless you go through the crazy. And when you're able to do that and you come out the other side, and as you continue to go through life, it's, there's going to be more of these unwrappings and more things that just happen in life because life happens. But it does help a great deal. And just pausing for a moment to breathe can soften the outer layer of what feels huge.
So heavy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And what I have found so helpful is talking to someone like you who then says, oh, like that's not how I see it. Like, let's just look at it from this chair instead of the chair you've been sitting in for the past 25 years. Let's look at
Yeah.
it from this chair. It's
Yeah.
actually quite beautiful, so yeah, we're getting into a deeper topic here, but that's okay. All right. So, meditation, just start, keep it short, breathe, and time is not an issue.
It's not an issue. In the first thing in the morning, if you get into a practice of just taking deep, full breaths when you first wake up,
Mm-hmm.
that can be a start to a meditative practice.
Yeah.
And if you do have the time and you do want to take the time, feel free, go bonkers. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to take half hour, 45 minutes, an hour long, and have a meditation practice, go for it. If you want to do it once a month, once a week, and everything else is 10 seconds, no problem.
And so I consider this to be, as a holistic nutritionist, and I think of many of my clients, most of them are women, they come to me, and so, now one of my prescriptions is meditation. Like, it is, would you agree that it's a part of physical, emotional, mental wellness as much almost as having enough water in the day?
Yeah, and even if it was wrapped in the message of breathing, if in a meditation you're changing how you breathe and you oxygenate your body,
Mm-hmm.
that needs to happen to all of us,
Yeah.
all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Awesome. Okay, I think we'll wrap up there. We're at 11:31.
Okay,
Thanks so much for your time, Matt. That was really interesting. I really enjoyed that. If anyone has any questions, then please leave his name, and I highly recommend it. And if you want to connect with him, go for it. And Brenda says thanks. I'm glad you caught us, Brenda. Thanks for watching, everybody. And if you're catching the replay, again, feel free to leave a comment or a question, or just DM us if it's private.
Yeah, I think that's a. I'm glad you mentioned that, Maggie, because sometimes people don't really want their questions or interests to be publicly consumed, and that's fine. You reach out to one of us. I always enjoy this time with you, Max.
Okay, yeah, thanks so much. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.